"Open it, babe!" Someone shouts from the crowd. Champagne flutes clink. The band hits a jazzy note. Marcus Davis, tech billionaire and groom of the hour, flashes his practiced smile, the one that's been on magazine covers and billboards across the coast. The cameras love him. The guests love him. Even the chandelier seems to shine a little harder for him. But the moment he lifts the lid of the small silver box on the gift table, the world tilts. At first, it's laughter, the easy, rich kind that bounces off marble and gold. But then it stops, one sound at a time. Folks humiliation. The violinist lowers her bow. The laughter dies so quickly it almost feels sucked out of the room. You can feel it, like a temperature drop. Marcus's grin stiffens. His fingers twitch, tightening around the lid as if he could push it closed again. His bride, Tiffany Lang, influencer, heiress, human sparkle, leans over his shoulder, her eyes narrowing. "Marcus, what? What is that?" No one answers. A single photo rests inside the box. Glossy, recent, folded once down the middle. Next to it, a sealed ivory envelope. Elegant handwriting loops across the front in black ink. "For the man who taught me what silence costs." Someone in the crowd gasps. Another phone flashes and Marcus snaps, "No pictures!" His voice cracks the air like glass breaking. He stands frozen, the photo pinched between his fingers. You can't see it from the audience's view, but whatever he's seeing drains the color from his face. His jaw locks. His new wife steps closer, grabbing his arm, whispering something sharp. "What is it?" she hisses. Marcus doesn't answer. He looks toward the stage, toward the giant LED screen behind him, still looping, "Mr. and Mrs. Davis, forever begins tonight." And for the first time that evening, he looks small beneath it. The guests murmur, exchanging confused glances, their curiosity feeding on itself. The MC tries to recover the moment. Folks, maybe we should move on to the toast." He laughs nervously, but Marcus doesn't move. His gaze darts around the hall, scanning faces like he's looking for someone. Like he's afraid they might be here. Then, a faint sound crackles through the speakers. It's not the DJ, not the mic. It's something else, static. Then, a voice, a woman's voice. Calm, controlled, measured. "You said I'd never be worth more than what you left me with." The crowd freezes. Marcus's head snaps toward the sound booth. "Turn that off," he barks. "You said the world would forget my name, and so would you." The voice continues, slow and haunting, echoing through the ballroom's luxury acoustics. Tiffany covers her mouth. "Marcus, whose voice is that?" He doesn't answer. He's sweating now, under the $1,000 tux, under the spotlight. He lunges toward the DJ table, but the voice follows him through every speaker. "You built your empire on something that wasn't yours, on someone who believed in you." People exchange glances. The name Layla floats in whispers through the crowd like perfume. Layla Davis, the ex-wife. And suddenly everyone remembers the messy divorce 5 years ago, the gossip blogs, the rumors about stolen tech patents, the settlement that never made sense. "Congratulations, Marcus." The voice finishes softly. "May your forever begin with the truth." Then silence. Total, unnatural silence. Marcus stands trembling, his chest heaving as if he's been running. The band doesn't dare move. The photographer lowers his camera. Someone drops a glass in the back. The shatter echoes like punctuation. Tiffany steps back from him, eyes wide. "Tell me this is a joke." He can't, because from the box in his hand, something else has fallen. A flash drive, sleek and silver, engraved with a name, L. Davis. The same name etched on the foundation plaque outside the Davis Innovation Center, the very building where Marcus built his empire. The irony doesn't miss the crowd. Not tonight. You can almost hear the headlines writing themselves in real time. Ex-wife crashes billionaire's wedding with shocking gift. Marcus drops the box. It clatters on marble like a gavel. The bride's father, an oil tycoon with the patience of a rattlesnake, steps forward. "Son," he says through clenched teeth, "what the hell is going on?" Marcus tries to speak, but no words come out. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. The same mouth that once sold visions of progress to investors, now stripped bare in front of 300 witnesses. The MC swallows hard. Ladies and gentlemen, there seems to be some technical issue. Let's give the couple a moment. But the moment has already arrived, and every single person in that ballroom knows it. They've just watched something irreversible begin. The chandelier flickers. The air feels heavy. The perfect evening is no longer perfect, and somewhere far from the hotel, a woman named Layla closes her laptop screen. The faint reflection of the ballroom's chaos glows across her eyes. She whispers to herself, barely audible, "Now let's see if he still thinks silence is cheap." Fade to black. 4 hours earlier, before the microphone betrayal, before the whispers and the falling glass, Marcus Davis had been the image of everything the world adored: success, power, charm with teeth. The Grand Meridian's penthouse suite gleamed with gold and marble, flooded with the scent of imported orchids and money well spent. You stand near the window, watching the groom admire himself in the mirror, the city stretching behind him like a conquered empire. The Seattle skyline reflects in his cufflinks, tiny twin towers of light trapped on his wrists. He's laughing, of course. He laughs easily when he's on top. "Can you believe it, man?" He says to his best man, Drew Halston, childhood friend, business partner, professional enabler. "Look at this. Press outside, Forbes inside. I told Layla she'd regret walking away." Drew smirks, pouring whiskey into 2 crystal tumblers. "Pretty sure she didn't walk, bro. You kicked her to the curb." Marcus shrugs, grin unbothered. "Details." He downs the drink, eyes flicking toward the suite door where stylists bustle around Tiffany Lang, his soon-to-be wife, whose diamonds could probably fund a small country. Tiffany twirls before the mirror, dress shimmering like poured silver. "You're staring again," she teases. "Who wouldn't?" Marcus replies smoothly. "You're the best thing that ever happened to my image." Her laughter is high and practiced, the kind you can hear through filters on social media. She turns back to her reflection. "You mean the best thing that ever happened to you?" He smirks. "Same thing, babe." Drew's phone buzzes. He glances down, brows furrowing. "Hey, you see this?" He flips the screen toward Marcus. An online headline: Layla Davis, founder of Little Atlas Robotics, announces expansion into AI research. Marcus's smirk flickers, almost imperceptibly. "Never heard of it." Drew chuckles. "You've heard of it. She used to tinker with that prototype, remember? The voice recognition system? The one you said was too emotional for the market?" The word emotional hangs there like a gnat. Marcus adjusts his cufflinks, gaze sharp. "She played with ideas. I built a company. There's a difference." "Sure," Drew says, tone too light to be harmless. "Still funny, though. The woman you divorced for being a dreamer now runs a tech firm. Talk about plot twists." Marcus's jaw tightens. "She got lucky." Tiffany's stylist chimes in. "Luck's just God's way of giving credit to hard work," and earns a frosty glance from Marcus. The conversation shifts, but the tension lingers, an invisible thread between the penthouse laughter and the ghost of a woman they pretend not to remember. Later, as the sun slides low over the sound, Marcus leans on the balcony. The wind tousles his perfect hair. His reflection stares back from the glass. All angles, all polish, no softness. He's thinking about Layla. He hates that he still does. The way she used to bite her lip when she worked, the hum she made when she coded. The way she never raised her voice, not even the night she left. Back then, he told himself she was dead weight. That a man like him needed someone who sparkled in public, not someone who sat cross-legged on the floor, soldering circuit boards like a kid playing pretend. And yet, there's that flicker again. Guilt's small, annoying cousin. He pushes it away. "The past doesn't matter," he mutters. Winners move forward. Downstairs, the ballroom hums with rehearsed perfection. Staff glide between tables like shadows in pressed uniforms. Kesha, one of the cleaning crew, wipes a glass so clear you can see your conscience in it. She pauses briefly as a crate of wedding favors passes by, each embossed with "Forever Begins Tonight." She smirks quietly to herself. "Forever," she whispers. "Sure got a time limit." Nobody hears her. By 7, the guests begin to arrive. Politicians, influencers, entrepreneurs. You can smell wealth before you even see it. Oud cologne, champagne, new money trying to smell old. Marcus works the room effortlessly, every handshake rehearsed, every compliment a transaction. Tiffany glides beside him, her laughter like static electricity, bright, artificial, and slightly dangerous. "Mr. Davis," calls a familiar voice from the entrance. It's Senator Whitaker, an investor and friend of his late father. The older man's handshake is firm, eyes calculating. "You've outdone yourself, son. I hear the new acquisition's worth a fortune." Marcus's smile widens. "We don't do small fortunes anymore, sir." Whitaker chuckles, but his gaze lingers. "And tell me, your ex-wife, the robotics woman, you two settled everything, right?" A flicker of irritation crosses Marcus's face. "Ancient history." "Good," the senator says, lowering his voice. "Because rumors have long legs. And she's walking fast these days." Marcus forces a laugh, but the words stick. An hour before the ceremony, he's in the dressing room again. Drew's fixing his tie. "Relax, man." "You won." "Yeah," Marcus says softly. "I did," but he doesn't sound convinced. Meanwhile, across town, a modest apartment hums with quiet defiance. Layla Davis, simple blouse, worn jeans, focus steady, slides a small box into a padded envelope. The sound of tape ripping is almost ceremonial. She runs her thumb over the neat handwriting on the label. Marcus Davis, Grand Meridian Hotel. There's a flicker of hesitation. She whispers, "You wanted silence, Marcus." "You'll have it. You're kind." She places the envelope into another's hands, a courier dressed in hotel livery. "Please deliver this to the groom's table before the reception begins." The courier nods. As the door closes, Layla exhales, slow, deliberate. The light from her monitor glows across her face, reflecting a file still open on the screen. Davis Tech Prototype A9, Original Design Draft. L. Davis. Her fingers rest on the keyboard. She doesn't hit save. Instead, she opens a second window. Live Feed, Grand Meridian Ballroom. Her camera shows the stage, the gift table, and one man smiling like he owns the world. She murmurs to herself. Let's see if he remembers what honesty looks like, and presses record. The night hums in Layla's small apartment, the low buzz of her refrigerator, the soft tap of rain against the window pane, the steady heartbeat of a woman who's learned how to rebuild in silence. On her kitchen table sits a half-empty mug of tea gone cold, a photo in a cracked silver frame beside it. In the picture, a younger Layla beams, arm wrapped around Marcus, both of them in worn jeans, sweat on their faces, laughter in their eyes. Behind them, a garage scattered with wires, soldering irons, and the first rough sketches of what would become his billion-dollar company. She stares at that photo for a long time, then flips it face down. In the next room, the glow of her computer screen illuminates a desk stacked with papers. Patents, blueprints, letters from lawyers. Each page stamped with her name, some crossed out, rewritten, refiled. Every document is a breadcrumb trail of the life Marcus pretends never existed. The camera feed from the Grand Meridian Ballroom still plays in the corner of her monitor. Guests laugh, music swells, chandeliers shimmer like promises made under false oaths. Layla doesn't smile. She whispers to herself, "You built an empire on what you stole. My work, my voice, my faith in you. But tonight isn't about revenge." She pauses. "It's about truth." Her phone vibrates and a message from an unknown number. Still thinking about it? "You don't have to do this." She exhales, fingers hovering over the keys before replying. "Yes, I do." "People need to see the real Marcus Davis." The reply comes almost instantly. "Be careful, Layla. Powerful men break things when they lose control." She sets the phone down, a faint, bitter smile tugging at her lips. Let him try. Flashback, 3 years earlier. The same apartment, emptier, darker. Marcus stands in the doorway, still wearing the smug grin of a man who thinks the world is his reflection. "You're overreacting," he says. "It's just a prototype." "I only showed it to the board. You showed my work without my name on it," Layla snaps. It's one of the few times she's ever raised her voice. Marcus waves a dismissive hand. Your work? Layla, it was our project. And you wouldn't even have finished it without my funding. Her eyes flash. Funding? You mean my savings account? The one you drained to buy investors dinner? He laughs, actually laughs. That's how business works, sweetheart. You have the ideas, I make them marketable. Her silence cuts sharper than her words ever could. Then, almost softly, you used to say we were partners. He looks at her, then down at his Rolex. I outgrew the partnership. That's when she knew, not just that he'd taken her invention, but that he'd taken something worse, her belief that love and respect could coexist with power. Back in the present, Layla opens a drawer. Inside, a velvet pouch, aged and slightly torn. She unties it carefully and pulls out a small silver locket. Inside the locket, a microchip, the prototype core of her first AI system, Little Atlas. The chip hums faintly, alive even after all these years. She traces it with her thumb and whispers, "You called it sentimental junk. But this little thing remembers everything, even your voice." Then she looks at the envelope she sent earlier, its twin still on her desk. A faint smirk crosses her face. You wanted your name on everything, Marcus. Let's see how it feels when it's the wrong kind of headline. A sudden clap of thunder rattles the window. Layla walks over and stares out at the city, lights gleaming in the rain like distant applause she can't hear anymore. Her reflection stares back, calm, resolute, older. Not bitter, just done being small, she whispers to herself. They called me a burden, but I carried everything. And as the camera in the ballroom pans across the gift table, resting briefly on a simple white box tied with gold ribbon, she smiles faintly, because inside that box isn't just paper, it's proof. The night it all began didn't feel like the start of an ending. It felt like celebration. Champagne bubbles rising under golden light, laughter echoing through their penthouse, and Marcus standing at the center of it all, dazzling as ever. Layla remembered every detail. The way his colleagues called him visionary. The way he wrapped an arm around her waist, just tight enough to remind her she belonged to him, not with him, and the way he'd said, almost playfully, "Let's make this interesting." It was a launch party. The unveiling of a new algorithm Marcus claimed would revolutionize predictive AI. Cameras flashed. Investors clapped. Layla stood to the side, quiet but proud, until a journalist asked a simple question. Mr. Davis, who helped design the code? Marcus smiled that sharp, rehearsed smile. I did, from the ground up. Layla froze. Her champagne glass trembled. It was her code, months of her life, rewritten just enough to erase her name. After the crowd dispersed, she confronted him. Why did you lie? He shrugged, unbothered. It's a story. People like simple stories. One genius, one product. Not messy partnerships with a wife who studied liberal arts before learning code on YouTube. She felt the sting deep in her chest. So you'd rather be alone on the stage than share credit? He smirked. If you want credit, prove you're worth it. Then he said the words that would poison everything. Let's make a bet, Layla. You think you're smarter? Build something better than mine in 30 days. If you can't, admit you'd be nothing without me. She laughed then, a dry, shocked sound. You're serious? He raised his glass. Completely, and because pride burns as hot as love, she took the bet. The following month turned their marriage into a cold war. She coded through sleepless nights, her fingers trembling from caffeine and heartbreak. He threw parties, paraded new investors, and occasionally appeared in her doorway to gloat. You're wasting your time, he'd say, voice dipped in mock sympathy. Not everyone's built to win, but on the 30th day, Layla finished. A small AI prototype that could mimic human emotion, not just predict behavior, but understand it. She named it Little Atlas. When she showed it to Marcus, his smirk faded for the first time. He plugged it in, ran her demo, and for a fleeting second, awe flickered in his eyes. Then came the applause from his friends in the next room. Cameras, noise, ego. He leaned back and said coolly, Impressive. But it's still mine, she blinked. What? You built it in my house using my equipment. My resources. You said yourself, we're married. What's yours is mine. He turned to his friends. Guess I win the bet, they laughed. She stood there numb, realizing she had just lost more than a bet. She'd lost her partner, her dream, her dignity. That night, while he slept, she packed her things. Only the essentials, her laptop, the prototype, and the small locket that held its data core. He woke as she reached the door. Running away again? He murmured, voice dripping with condescension. Can't handle the truth? She looked back, her eyes steady. The truth is, you'll spend the rest of your life trying to prove you're more than what you stole. And she left. Back in the present, the echo of that night still haunts the edges of her memory. The rain, the silence, the sting of humiliation, all of it distilled into the single white box now sitting on a golden table surrounded by flowers and laughter. But what no one knows, not Marcus, not his new wife, not the guests, is that the bet never ended, because inside that box is the one thing he can't buy: bury or spin. The proof that the very technology that built his empire, the algorithm, the seed of his success, wasn't born in his lab. It was born in her hands, and tonight, in front of 300 people and every camera that matters, the world will finally see it. The ballroom glowed like a dream stitched in gold. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above a sea of laughter and clinking glasses. Every guest sparkled. Sequins, cufflinks, diamonds flashing in rhythm with the band's polished jazz. To anyone watching, Marcus Davis had finally achieved what every man envied: power, beauty, and a new wife who fit perfectly into his curated world. But perfection has a sound, and tonight it sounded too smooth. Something about the air in the Grand Meridian felt off, a quiet pulse under the music, like static building in the walls. Marcus stood near the head table, his hand around Elise's waist, charming the crowd as photographers swarmed. She was all smiles, blonde, elegant, the kind of woman who'd never seen him broke, desperate, or angry. She loved the man he'd become, not the one he'd buried. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus raised a glass, to second chances and to knowing when to trade up. The crowd laughed on cue. Cameras flashed. At a table near the back, a few guests exchanged uneasy glances. The joke landed harder than Marcus realized. Among them sat Eleanor Wade, a retired corporate lawyer, silver hair pinned neatly, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had worked on Marcus's first patent years ago. She had seen the contract Layla refused to sign. Now, as the waiters passed champagne, Eleanor's gaze flicked toward the gift table. Specifically, the small white box with gold ribbon. Her hand froze mid-air. That seal, the wax imprint shaped like a tiny compass. She'd seen it once before. On a file marked L. Davis, private. Her pulse quickened. Across the hall, Marcus was still holding court. You know, Elise didn't even hesitate when I proposed. She knew I was the right choice. Laughter again. The band struck a brighter note. But Eleanor wasn't listening anymore. Her eyes were locked on that box. At the same moment, the wedding planner, Serena, whispered to a waiter, "Who's the sender of that small white gift?" "It's not on the registry." The waiter checked the tag. "No name, ma'am." "Just initials, LD?" Serena frowned. "Odd. Make sure it's cleared before the toast, all right?" "Of course." But when the waiter returned moments later, the box was gone. In a side corridor, the band's pianist, a tall man with kind eyes, leaned against the wall scrolling through a playlist. He didn't notice the woman in the black maid uniform quietly passing by with a tray of empty glasses. Her name tag read, Layla. For a second, she paused, just long enough to hear Marcus's laughter spill through the open doors. Her chest tightened, but she didn't stop moving. She knew better than to linger in rooms that weren't meant for her. Still, the sound of his voice cut through her like an echo from another life. The guests might not recognize her. Different hair, different uniform, years between scars. But if Marcus looked closely, He'd remember, only Marcus Davis wasn't the type to look closely at anyone who cleaned his floors. Back in the ballroom, Elise dabbed her lipstick and whispered, "You're loving this, aren't you?" Marcus grinned. "I've earned it. Everyone here knows it." A few cameras captured that smile, white teeth, confident eyes, the look of a man who believed the world would always applaud him. Then a soft sound broke the rhythm, a faint ping from the speaker system. Feedback. Marcus frowned. "Tech team," he called out, half joking. "Even at my wedding, nothing works unless I fix it myself." Laughter rippled again, but this time it felt thinner, more cautious. Eleanor's gaze flicked toward the AV booth. A young technician was frowning at a console that had suddenly come to life. A small light blinked red, recording in progress. The band transitioned into a slower tune. The air seemed heavier now, the kind of silence that hides behind music. Marcus took Elise's hand. "Ready for the toast?" She smiled, oblivious. "Let's make it perfect." The ballroom lights dimmed. A spotlight flickered over the head table. Every eye turned toward the couple. The cameras adjusted focus, and then a ripple of movement. A waiter approached with a small white box. "Sir," he said softly, "this was found near the gift table." "It seems addressed to you." Marcus raised an eyebrow, amused. "Ah, the mysterious box. All right, let's see what the ex-wife thinks I deserve." Elise laughed lightly. "Marcus!" But he was already untying the gold ribbon, milking the moment for the crowd. The chatter dimmed. The air stilled. Even the candles seemed to lean forward. Marcus looked up, smirking. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's see what nostalgia looks like." He opened the lid. Silence. Then, confusion. His expression faltered. The smirk dropped. Something inside the box made his eyes narrow, then widen, not in anger, but in disbelief. The band stopped playing. The laughter died mid-breath, and somewhere in the back, Eleanor Wade whispered, "Oh my God." No one knew yet what he'd seen, but the room could feel it. The moment when ego met truth, when ghosts stopped being polite, and somewhere unnoticed in the shadows, the maid quietly wheeled her empty tray toward the exit, her lips curved in the faintest, saddest smile. For a few long seconds, the ballroom was soundless, the kind of silence that hums, thick and alive. Even the chandelier lights seemed to tremble as Marcus Davis stood frozen, one hand gripping the open box. Inside lay two things: a sealed cream envelope, folded twice, and beneath it a photograph, old, slightly creased at the edges. The image was simple, a woman standing beside a hospital bed, cradling a newborn wrapped in a blue blanket. But it was the man in the background, Marcus himself, younger, gaunt, without the expensive suit or confident grin, that made the room's air shift. He looked terrified in that photo. "Marcus?" Elise's voice cracked through the stillness, soft but trembling. "What is that?" Marcus blinked, once, twice, trying to process what he was seeing. Then he laughed too loudly, a nervous sound. Just some old photo." Must be a prank, but his hand wouldn't stop shaking. Someone whispered, "That's him, right?" "That's Marcus?" Another voice. "Who's the woman?" He turned sharply toward the murmuring, snapping, "It's nothing. Sit down, everyone." A joke from someone desperate for attention. But he didn't move to throw the photo away. Instead, his thumb brushed the corner, tracing the edge of a small handwritten note scrawled in the corner. "Seattle General, June 3rd, 2015. A year before his company's big break. A year before the divorce, Eleanor Wade rose from her chair. Her lawyer's instinct, dormant for years, clicked awake. "Marcus," she called gently. "That looks like a legal document seal. Is there a letter in there too?" Marcus's eyes flicked to her, and for the first time all night, the confidence cracked. The ballroom cameras were still rolling. His investors, his board members, his new in-laws, they all watched in taut, electric silence. Elise whispered again. "Marcus." "Maybe don't." He ripped open the envelope, a soft tear. Paper. The sound cut through the air like a knife through velvet. Inside was a single sheet, cream paper, folded 3 times with a faint scent of jasmine. He unfolded it with deliberate slowness, his breathing heavy, every motion magnified by the absolute hush around him. He read the first line and stopped breathing. Marcus, I kept my silence when you asked for it. I let you take everything, my name, my work, my child's truth, because you said the world wouldn't believe me. Tonight they will. His hand trembled harder now. The words blurred, black ink bleeding into his vision. Marcus? Elise's voice rose in panic. What is this? Who's writing you like that? He tried to laugh again, but the sound broke apart halfway out of his throat. She's lying. It's just my ex trying to... Who's she? Someone called. He swallowed. Layla. The name hit the crowd like a ripple of static. Layla Davis, his ex-wife. The quiet one he'd left for Elise. The one everyone whispered had held him back. Eleanor slowly stepped closer to the head table. Marcus, if that's a letter of claim, you might want to stop talking. But Marcus was spiraling. No, she can't do this. She can't... He turned the letter over, eyes darting across the words. You told me my design was worthless, that no one would invest in a black woman's idea. You filed the patent under your own name, Marcus. But you forgot one thing. The original prototype still has my initials soldered inside. A collective gasp. The pianist in the band muttered, Wait, she's saying she built Pierce Tech's design? Marcus slammed the letter down. That's a lie. I paid for it. But he couldn't finish. Because deep down, he knew. He knew the nights she spent sketching circuits on napkins while he mocked her. He knew the argument. Her saying, this could change lives, and him replying, it'll only change mine if I own it. Elise stepped back, color draining from her face. You stole from her? Marcus turned toward her, desperate. No, I developed it. She just helped. Helped? Eleanor's voice sliced through the room like a blade. You mean she created the base architecture? I saw her signature on the early drafts. The ones you filed over after the divorce? Marcus's jaw locked. Stay out of this, Eleanor, but the damage was done. The crowd wasn't whispering anymore. They were watching, eyes wide, mouths parted. Phones discreetly lifted, cameras recording, and then a sound, a faint crackle through the speakers. The same glitch from earlier. Marcus froze. Turn that off, he barked toward the AV booth, but the technician shook his head. Sir, I didn't start anything. It's coming from an external drive. Marcus's stomach dropped. On cue, a female voice, calm, measured, unmistakable, filled the ballroom. You once said, Marcus, that I'd never be remembered, that my ideas, my name, and my face would disappear while you climbed higher. You were half right. My name disappeared, but not my voice. Layla's voice. The crowd turned toward the speakers, entranced. You told me to keep my black mouth shut and stay invisible. But you forgot. Invisible people see everything. Record everything! Gasps rippled across the hall. Marcus lunged for the console, shouting, Turn it off! But the screen behind the stage flickered to life, showing an old security feed. Grainy footage of Marcus in a small apartment. Shouting, grabbing papers off a desk, tearing them apart. You'll never amount to anything without me! He screamed at the camera. And in the corner, the recording captured a young Layla, calm, holding up a prototype chip glowing faintly blue. You're wrong, Marcus, she said quietly. Someday, this will speak louder than you ever could. The feed cut to black. The silence that followed wasn't shock anymore. It was judgment. In 300 pairs of eyes, Marcus saw his empire crumble, not in fire, but in truth, and somewhere beyond the ballroom doors. Unseen, Layla turned off her phone, tucked her maid uniform cap tighter, and exhaled. Her gift had been received. No one moved. Not even the candles dared to flicker. The last echoes of Layla's voice lingered through the ballroom speakers like a ghost that refused to leave. Marcus stood there, frozen, his reflection trembling across the champagne glasses. His tuxedo, once a symbol of power, now looked like armor cracking under heat. He opened his mouth to speak, but words failed him. From the back, someone whispered, Did he really say that to her? Another voice, I heard she worked 2 jobs when he started Pierce Tech. Guess now we know why he got so far so fast. Phones lifted. Cameras zoomed. The story was no longer his to control. Elise stepped back, her wedding dress glimmering under the chandeliers like betrayal itself. "You told me she was unstable," she said softly, trembling. "You said she was obsessed with you." Marcus reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Elise, please. It's not what it looks like." "Oh, it looks exactly like what it sounds like," Eleanor Wade cut in, voice steady as stone. "And that recording will hold up in court." Marcus turned to her, face pale. "Eleanor, you don't know—" "I do know," she interrupted. "Because I was there when you forged her signature. You said she agreed to sign over her designs, but she never even saw that contract." The crowd murmured louder now, the hum of disbelief rising into outrage. Marcus tried to regain his footing. "You people have no idea what it's like to build something from nothing." "Nothing?" Eleanor scoffed. "You built your empire on a woman's back, then pretended she didn't exist." The band's pianist, who hadn't left the stage, quietly reached for his mic. His deep, calm voice carried across the hall. "Sir, if I may?" Marcus glared. "Stay out of this." But the man ignored him. "That voice recording, it's not the only one. That woman sent a message to the hotel staff earlier tonight." He turned toward the sound booth. "Play it." Marcus lunged forward, but 2 hotel security guards stepped into his path, firm, expressionless. The screen blinked to life again. This time, Layla appeared, not in the old apartment, but in the same Grand Meridian Hotel, standing in a service hallway wearing her maid uniform. The video was recorded hours ago. Her tone was calm, poised. A woman who had already let go of rage and found clarity. "If you're hearing this, Marcus, it means I've kept my promise. You told me to stay quiet. I did. You told me to move on. I did that too. But you forgot one thing." She paused, her eyes steady on the camera. "You can't silence someone who knows her worth." She smiled faintly, that kind of quiet strength that burns slow but bright. "Everything you took from me, I turned into something bigger. You wanted to own the invention? Fine. But I built the company that owns you." The crowd gasped again. Marcus stumbled backward. "She's bluffing." She can't." But Eleanor nodded grimly. "She can. I've seen the documents. The new majority investor in Pierce Tech Holdings is Layla Davis Enterprises." Marcus's voice cracked. No, I would have known." Eleanor stepped closer, holding out her phone. "Check the SEC filings yourself." He grabbed it, scrolling through the official document. His name appeared near the bottom under Chief Executive, but above it, highlighted in bold, primary shareholder, LD Enterprises, Layla Davis. His breath hitched. The entire ballroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs, then a surge of whispers. The band stopped completely. Even the servers froze, holding trays mid-air. Elise stared at him, shaking her head. "You invited her gift to your own downfall." Marcus clenched the letter still in his hand. She's ruining me." Eleanor's voice softened. "No, Marcus. She's revealing you." The microphone on the head table squealed with feedback. Marcus grabbed it, desperate, trembling. "Everyone, stop recording. This is my wedding. None of you understand what it's like to be betrayed." The irony hit the room like thunder. Someone near the back laughed bitterly. "You mean like how you betrayed her?" He spun, scanning the crowd, searching for someone, anyone, who still looked at him like a man worth respecting. No one did. He slammed the mic down. The sound cracked through the ballroom, echoing against marble and glass. "You all think she's some hero? She's just bitter because I left her." But in that moment, the doors at the far end of the hall opened, and the entire room turned. Standing there, framed by the golden light of the corridor, was Layla, still in her black maid uniform, holding her cleaning cart like a shield, her face calm, composed. Every guest went silent again. She stepped forward slowly, the wheels of her cart rolling softly over the marble floor. Marcus froze. "Layla, what are you doing here?" Her voice was gentle, almost kind. "Cleaning up." She stopped halfway across the room. the distance between them charged like static. "You used to say I'd never walk into a place like this and have people look twice," she said. "Looks like you were wrong twice tonight." The crowd chuckled, a low ripple that made Marcus's jaw tighten. Layla turned to the audience, meeting their eyes one by one. "I didn't come here for revenge," she said softly. "I came here so the truth could finally breathe." Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. "What do you want from me?" She tilted her head. "Nothing. You already gave it to me. In the end, your greed gave me everything I needed. Your company, your investors, your proof." Her eyes lingered on the letter in his hand. "But this," she said, nodding toward it, "this was just a gift, to remind you what honesty looks like." She turned to leave, but before she could reach the door, a voice from the crowd called, "Wait!" It was Eleanor. "Ms. Davis, what will you do now?" Layla paused, her hand on the cart handle. "Keep working," she said with a faint smile. "Not every queen needs a throne. Some of us build kingdoms from the floor up." And with that, she pushed the cart forward, each roll echoing like punctuation in a story that had just rewritten itself. The ballroom stayed, utterly still, until the doors closed behind her. Then the band leader, voice trembling, raised his mic. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "that concludes the toast." The next morning, headlines bloomed across every news feed and gossip page like wildfire. Bride's wedding erupts in scandal. Ex-wife exposes. CEO's secret live on camera. From maid to millionaire, Layla Davis now owns majority of Pierce Tech. Clips from the wedding flooded social media. Marcus's stunned face, the open box, Layla's calm speech. Hashtags trended worldwide. The gift, that spoke, Layla wins, poetic justice. But Layla wasn't online to see any of it. She stood quietly on a balcony at sunrise, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. The ocean stretched below her new coastal villa, bought not with revenge, but with patience. The maid's uniform hung neatly folded on a chair beside her. Her phone buzzed. A message from Eleanor Wade. "You handled that with more grace than any courtroom ever could." He's stepping down. "Congratulations, Layla. You didn't just expose him, you replaced him." Layla smiled faintly, typing back. "I never wanted to replace him. I just wanted the truth to stand." She set the phone down and opened a small velvet pouch, the same one that had once carried the letter. Inside lay 3 pendants, each engraved with a single word: faith, work, worth. She whispered. "For every day I forgot them." Across the city, Marcus sat alone in his office, or rather what used to be his office. The Pierce Tech logo behind him now read, "A division of LD Enterprises." The boardroom was silent. Cameras clicked as he signed the final resignation documents. His lawyer slid a folder toward him. "They'll pay you out for your remaining shares, but you've lost controlling interest. She owns 72% now." Marcus laughed weakly, a hollow sound. "She waited years for this." The lawyer hesitated. "If it helps, sir. She could have destroyed you completely, but she didn't. She only took back what was hers." He stared out the window, watching workers remove his nameplate from the glass door. "That's what makes it worse," he muttered. She didn't come to win. She came to end it. Weeks later, at an industry gala, reporters buzzed as a new name appeared on stage: Layla Davis, CEO of LD Enterprises. She wore an elegant emerald gown, no longer hiding behind silence or servitude. Cameras flashed, but her composure never wavered. "Success," she began, "isn't about who laughs last. It's about who learns first." She paused, scanning the room, the same kind of people who once dismissed her. "Some of you may remember me as a face in the background, someone who didn't belong in your meetings, your homes, your stories. But I learned something important sweeping floors and polishing silver." The audience leaned forward. "When people underestimate you, they hand you power. Because while they're busy laughing, you're busy building." The crowd erupted into applause. After the event, she stepped outside into the night. A sleek Rolls-Royce waited at the curb, the same model Marcus once flaunted. Only this time, she wasn't arriving to prove a point. She was leaving with peace. As she opened the door, Eleanor joined her. You did it, Layla. Layla smiled softly. No, I just told the truth out loud. Eleanor nodded. And what about Marcus? She looked out toward the skyline, the city lights shimmering like a million small redemptions. He got his gift, she said quietly. Now he gets to live with it. Back at the Grand Meridian, the ballroom staff began cleaning up from yet another wedding. One of the servers found a crumpled napkin tucked beneath a chair, scrawled in pen, "To Layla, I see you now." MD, she folded it carefully and left it on the corner of the bar. If this story reminded you that silence can be the loudest revenge, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week we uncover another story where justice walks in quietly and leaves the room speechless. Have you ever seen someone written off because of how they looked, dressed, or where they came from, only to watch them rise higher than anyone expected? Share it in the comments. Your story might inspire our next tale of truth and redemption. And for those who notice everything, here's your challenge. Go back to around minute 7:15, right before Marcus opens the box. Watch Layla's hands carefully when the camera pans past her table. She does something subtle, deliberate, that foreshadows the entire ending. Did you catch it? Only the most observant viewers will know. Because in this ballroom, every gift has a story, and every story leaves evidence.